Hey everyone, welcome to Harley-Davidson Podcast. My name is Matthew Gardepy, and today we're talking with a local Milwaukee legend, two-wheeled enthusiast, restaurant entrepreneur, and the co-creator of Mama Tried Motorcycle Show, Scott Johnson. Scott, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, Matt. How's it going? That was pretty excellent. I liked it.
Yeah, man. How the heck are you doing these days? Are you staying busy?
Yeah, we got lots going on. The first week or so was like a little bit of a downtime, like trying to figure out what the quarantine was all about. And then after that, it's just been like 100 miles an hour. So
yeah, I know we were talking earlier. This hasn't really like slowed down at all as far as our work stuff. It just keeps getting crazier. So glad to see you're making your way through it. I'm kind of excited for this podcast because me and you have known each other for a while. We've worked together. We've shared some hangs. Well, I guess first, man, like you've been doing motorcycle stuff forever. So I kind of just want to know, like, how and when did motorcycles enter your life?
I was pretty lucky because my dad is pretty mechanically inclined. And so he built my brother. I have a little brother. I'm the oldest of three. And I have a little brother who's a couple years younger than I am. When we grew up together, like we did everything together. We were best friends. And when we were young, our dad built us a little Briggs & Stratton mini bike. When we kind of outgrew that, he got us a YZ80 Yamaha to share. So we kind of got to grow up around riding motorcycles and dirt bikes. That's kind of how it started. And that kind of like really set the hook. And it's been like just a nonstop thing ever since. Like it's just motorcycles for me and my brother still are just like, it's every day. It's, that's like half of my life of like all the things I think about. It's been, passion's not really the word because it's more like, I don't know. It's like an extension of my personality or just like, I don't know. It's everything in life to me. So
that's awesome, man. So your dad was all about it. How was mom? Was mom like super supportive about you guys getting bikes and racing and stuff?
Yeah, she was. She was really good about it. We kind of grew up in that time that maybe it was my parents specifically or parents just in general, but like my mom would, give us breakfast and then just shoo us out of the house and like didn't expect to see us until like dinner time. And we'd come home, covered in soot or smelling like gas or all scraped up with raspberries and cuts on us. And she would just shake her head and just direct us to the bathroom to wash our hands. It was just like, she never really asked what we were doing. She was like super loving. It wasn't like she was not a super great mom who encouraged us and she did everything. She just never kind of was like a worry wart about us. And I give her a lot of credit for that, her and my dad, because they, I feel like if I don't have kids, but if I had a kid, I'd be like, where were you? What were you doing? Like, how did it go? I'd just have a million questions. And they were just like, yeah, did you have fun? Cool. Like that's a pretty big cut on your arm. Is that going to be okay?
You talked about a lot of different, and I knew that already from your past that you, you had a love for the metric stuff and a lot of different other styles of racing, particularly the cafe racer stuff. I know we've talked about that before. But then you were telling me like how your first like Harley experiences and how you kind of just started falling in love with that. Can you go like a little deeper into that?
I think it was like when the first Bel Air opened and it was like the last couple of years of doing Rocker Box. It was like this street festival that I used to do in front of the Original Fuel. And we did that for like 10 years and that was a lot of fun. And that attracted a lot of Harley people. And my world was mostly metric at that time. I just kind of started getting to be exposed to more and more Harley people. And then when we did Bel Air, I met Warren and Ben and we went for a ride and went bar hopping. And I just was like, man, these guys are super fun and super cool. And we were like talking about bikes and I was talking about, like they had choppers and I was like, what's up with this? And what's up with that? And how come it doesn't have suspension? Is that weird? And like, what's up with these Springer front ends? And like, I don't understand that. And they're like, what's up with these flat track bikes? And like, what's up with road racing? And what's up with Hondas? And like, what, they had a million questions about all the other stuff. And so we were just like peppering each other with questions. And then I got on my first Harley. It was just bulletproof. Like I was always messing around with old Hondas and old Yamahas and BMWs and like in the Sportster, and the thing just runs every day. It just starts right up. So I started getting more into Harleys and really started discovering choppers, and that just led to this like massive love. And So I kind of, I still have a lot of metric bikes, but now like most of my stable is all Harley-Davidson stuff. My favorite bike is my 42 flathead flat tracker. I super got sold, and it was a super natural thing for me, and it was such a huge awakening. And I really to this day like still enjoy it. And I know this is a Harley podcast, but it's like I still think the workmanship and the quality and the reliability is like way more than I had ever imagined. This is like how Mama Tried started, because then I started hanging out with Warren a lot, and we're doing Rocker Box, and Rocker Box is like, it was a ride-in fest. We had no sponsors. We made the money for like the permits and the insurance by selling beer, and the beer was super cheap, and it was like it wasn't a moneymaker. It was a lot of fun, and it couldn't get any more rowdy or bigger, and there just wasn't any more room for it on the street. And the only neighborhood that would handle it was be River West. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna hang it up. And then I met Warren. I was like, man, I want to do an indoor show. And he was like, oh man, indoor shows suck. And I was like what indoor shows? I had never even heard of indoor shows. And he was like, he was kind of like, we just look at each other like, what are you talking about? And so he's like, dude, indoor shows suck. And I was like, well, I don't even know what that is. So if I had an indoor show, it wouldn't suck. And he's like, well, yeah, if you want to do an indoor show, I'd do one with you, but it can't blow like all these other ones. I was like, all right, well, you tell me what not to do, and then let's just do that. And then that's kind of how it started.
What other influences, aside from just, the love of motorcycles, are a big part of why Mama Tried is the way it is?
That's a really good question. I mean, I come from the same background as you, like punk stuff, I don't know, alternative lifestyle stuff. I've always been interested in art, and the motorcycle thing has been with me since I was a kid. The aesthetic was always just kind of like, the way that I came at it was I had no example to go from. Like, I don't think I even knew about Born Free until like the third or fourth year. I'd never even heard of it. It was really just like off the cuff of just like what kind of stuff that we were into. Print. I mean, I guess like typography and branding as like that sounds like so corporate, but like, all the different ways of people identifying themselves like in print media. That has always appealed to me. I did a fanzine a long time ago. I've always been into fanzines and magazines and books. And like, if you come to my house, like there's just piles and piles of books and magazines everywhere. So I guess maybe that was an influence, but it was really me coming. I think it really was like the synergy of Warren and I, Warren being like, dude, what's up with all this racing stuff? And me being like, dude, what's up with all this chopper stuff? And then the more we got to know each other and get into like ice racing together and riding choppers together, I really wanted to bring together like all my racing friends, because they're all like if you're a racer, you're a fabricator. Like you build frames or you alter your frame to make it better. You're making your own clip-ons, you're making rear sets, everything. Doesn't matter if it's like a flat tracker or a road racer or a sidecar, it's all fabrication. And so it's the same with the chopper world, right? Like with choppers, you're cutting up your bike to make it the way that you want to, maybe more for aesthetics than performance, and everybody's got their own ratio of aesthetic versus performance. I just wanted to get like the racer guys in the same room with the chopper guys and have them have beers together and just be like, hey man, how did you do that? And like, hey man, how did you do that? And like, see that they're basically doing the same things, but just coming at it from a completely different direction.
To that point, I think that's one thing that I've always loved about, this show specifically. Well, one, it was one of the first shows that I ever actually got to go to. Like I'd say Mama Tried was probably my first real indoor motorcycle show. Being exposed to all of those different types or segments of motorcycles in one room, and being able to, like you said, go from race bike that's all tricked out and, aluminum hand pounded fairing and all that stuff, and check that out right next to, some knucklehead that's, got some huge springer on it, and just kind of dive into all these intricate little things that the builder did, whether it be for performance, aesthetics, or just like creative art pieces that they incorporated into it, and just get like a sensory overload for all the things that we should all be loving about motorcycles. That's what I really fell in love with that show specifically because of that. How long has the show been going on? And then how long has Harley Davidson been the title sponsor?
Harley's been the title sponsor since day one. This show would have been our seventh. That kind of got derailed in March, but yeah, Harley's been with us since the very beginning, since the first day. It's really rad in a couple different ways. Like, first of all, like, people who don't live in Milwaukee have to understand that when you grow up in Milwaukee, Harley Davidson is just another company like Pabst Blue Ribbon or Schlitz or Blatz or Rexnord or Briggs and Stratton. Like, it's just a local company. It's like, so for us, it was super rad. Like, oh, cool, a local company wants to be involved in this, in this show, and it's a motorcycle company. That's awesome. I know that probably sounds super ridiculous, but it's honestly like that, like, wow. And it's kind of been that simple. And we still consider Harley Davidson, as like big supporters because like they're local. I think our other I know the only other sponsor from our first year was Miller High Life. So it's like we had these two local companies that wanted to be involved and in this little teeny show idea that we had. And, we've been super grateful because if it wasn't for them and all the people that came, like, who knows, it might have just died, crib death like the first year. But
so speaking on like this year is supposed to be the 7th year. Obviously, me, man, we were talking, I flew back in from Daytona that day and like you were blowing up my phone and we got on the phone and you're like, man, I think we got to pull the plug. Like the government's shutting us down. I just want to kind of talk about, we all know that currently 2020 has been pretty lame, but I guess that's kind of where Harley came out with this no-show idea. We saw that all of the shows that we really loved were going through some hard times. We saw a lot of the builders that we've always, respected and that we look forward to seeing their new stuff come out, also going through a hard time and not really having a place to show it. And that was kind of the idea behind this whole no-show that Harley's putting on, was to shine a light on that culture, that moto culture, and also to kind of just support, the guys that we've been a partner with for multiple years, like Mom Tried, Born Free, Congregation. What do you think of the show concept that we came up with?
I think it's really cool because this is what we got. It's like we are not able to put on a regular show at this point. I mean, who knows what it's going to be like, a month from now or 3 months from now. But I think that people have gotten used to the idea of all kinds of things being something that you experience through your computer and, by yourself. I know that sounds like 3 months ago, people have been like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard of. But now people totally get that that's like a reality and like the best way to experience things like with the way things are right now. So I think it's a super killer idea because there were so many cool bikes that were going to be shown at Mama Tried. When we had to call the show on that Thursday, like half of them were already in the building and the other half were like in transit on the way. And a lot of the stuff hadn't been shown before, from builders who had worked really, really hard on hard deadlines and like stayed up late poured all their money into it to get these builds done. And then the whole thing gets called off. And it was like a huge, huge bummer. It's a huge bummer for everyone, not just the builders, but I think it's just a really cool way to at least shine a little light on these guys that put so much heart and soul into their bikes. And I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be a part of it.
I got one last question for you, and it's a little deeper, but I've been asking all the guys that I've been talking to from the shows this question before we jump off. And that's, what does riding mean to you and what do you most love about riding?
When it's such a part of your everyday existence, it's kind of hard to put I don't get to ride every day. It's like we live in Wisconsin, so we really only get like 4 or 5 months of riding time in. And even then, I don't ride every day. I think about motorcycles probably every third or fourth second. But if I could encapsulate, there's something about like that sensory overload of, it just blows all your synapses like wide open and just gets your brain like flown in a way that I don't know. Just think it's like the most soulful, perfect thing to do. So for me, that's really it. It's just right when everything just seems so frustrating and lame in life, you can get on your bike and go rip around for an hour, and it all just goes away. So to me, I guess that's it.